off, I am very aware that I am late with this video. Second off, I changed how I was going to format this video so many fucking times. I hope you enjoy it. Hey there, Larvestites. I already know what some of you will be shouting at me in the comments when I say this, but I only just finished My Hero Academia Season 1 on June 30th of 2020. I know, I'm a rebel. Now, I binged the entire series, just to get you guys some good content. As usual, I will do my best not to be biased, but expect there to be some. Which, speaking of bias, My Hero Academia is a pretty big anime. Now, I understand that you all have your opinions, but I'm going to ask commenters to please be respectful when engaging in discussions. You know who you are. Spoiler warning! This is the only warning you will be receiving that there will be spoilers. This means that anime fights, deaths, and big character development may be spoiled for you. If you are like me and have not had the time lately to watch the anime and you do not want to be spoiled, do not continue or watch at your own risk. Now, My Hero Academia is currently a 4-season anime with 3 or 4 movies. I am only going to be reviewing the anime, and if I do the movies, they will be separate videos, because it would take up way too much time to go into here. Now, because My Hero Academia is a Season 4 anime at the time of recording, it took me a bit to decide whether or not I really wanted to do all of this in one video. Looking at the anime, it was definitely difficult to figure out how I wanted to format it, given that there are currently 88 episodes in these 4 seasons, and I could have potentially done it all in one go. I was going to cover seasons 1 and 2 to make up for the first technical half of My Hero Academia in one video, and do a second video for seasons 3 and 4. This plan changed in the middle of season 2, so you're getting it all in one video. Like my last anime review with Death Note, I'm going to be rating the anime on a total scale of 0 to 10. However, I'm going to be breaking down the anime review into 3 categories: plots, characters, and personal investment. These categories will then be rated on a scale of 0 to 5. The scores will be added up and divided by the number of categories to get the average, and certain categories like plot and personal investment will be scored separately by season and then have that calculated as averages as well, since there are many factors that play into the different times in the show. Also note that I will not be reviewing all of the characters if I don't get much from them. I know My Hero Academia is different from Death Note, and I'm not going to mess with My Hero Academia's score unintentionally by rating certain characters before much of them shows. For example, I'm not going to rate someone like Shigaraki based on a Season 1 perspective, because he shows up right at the end, and we don't see much of him in those moments. But my rating is based off of what we've seen up until Season 4. And, when I do later videos on this kind of stuff, like subscribe, turn on notifications, then yeah, I'll be rating him based off of scores for that anime as well. However, for later anime, and even in this video, I'm not going to be repeating characters I've reviewed unless important new information is brought to light, they go through noticeable growth, or, as I hope they don't start failing as a character from the first review I've given them. Now, plots. Season 1's plot. In my own words. Izuku Midoriya, a boy born without a quirk in a world where roughly 80% of the population has them, has always dreamed of being a hero. At 4 years old, his dream is quite literally washed away, but through this, he still desires to be a hero. With the help of the number 1 hero and symbol of peace, All Might, Izuku has the opportunity for his dream to come true. Now, this plot does seem very basic, as harsh as it sounds. However, I like this plot. It is a relatable situation for many who feel out of place, and it gives people hope that someone will believe in them. And I liked that instead of having a useless power or something else, Izuku had no quirk. I give this point 4.5 out of 5, taking off 0.5 due to how basic it seems. Season 2 had 2 separate arcs, and I feel they led perfectly one into the other. The first arc was the tournament arc, This arc was prefaced with how it came to be the most important event of the year and had taken the place of the Olympics. This showed off a lot of good, but we'll get into my issues with it later. The tournament arc led into the Stain arc, the arc in which we see how one character in particular feels about all these heroes and their selfish motives and their entitled Karens, creating a panic among many. The season ends off with the final exams for the first year. I thought the tournament arc was interesting, and I absolutely loved the Stain arc. I'll say 5 out of 5 for this. I thought the season itself did very well. Season 3's arc starts off following after the final exams, and this leads to the training camp arc. The training camp arc is interesting due to the League of Villains showing up. They kidnapped Bakugo, believing that he would make a valuable asset, and the next arc involves a rescue mission to save Bakugo. Ultimately, this ends in All Might fighting All for One. This led into the provisional licensing exam arc, leading to the rematch fight between Bakugo and Midoriya. I liked that we got to see more of the League of Villains, and I love that Bakugo and Midoriya did have a rematch. The action scenes were awesome and made sense, which is always a plus, so 5 out of 5. In Season 4, we have a lot going on. The students are looking to do hero work studies and must find agencies to gain experience. While all of this is going on, the Hasakai are making deals with the League of Villains and are manufacturing a new drug that causes many problems. During all of this, Deku and Lemillion come across Eri, a little girl who is in danger, and they seemingly can't do anything about it when they first meet her. This leads to the Eri rescue mission. All while in the background, the hero courses have to put together the festival for the support and business classes. 5 out of 5. I loved how much conflict and various stressors were presented for Season 4. So, plot calculation, 4.5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 19.5 divided by 4, which equals 4.8 out of 5, which is a pretty good score. Now, on to characters. Starting off with, obviously, Izuku Midoriya. Now, Season 1 Izuku is an amazing protagonist. Izuku is an abnormality and is not like most of the population, which means he falls under the roughly 20% that does not have a quirk or power. And with Izuku, you can see how people treat him when he doesn't have a quirk. He is looked down on, treated like he is nothing more than a tumbleweed in the wind, or like he's some sort of bug that needs to be squished. Izuku grows amazingly in the first season, not just because of his time with All Might, but because you can see him change from being someone who's barely holding on to hope to being someone who is determined. Izuku also has a good heart, wanting to protect others before himself, as seen after his first interaction with All Might and in the entrance exams, and proves to make certain connections as shown during the quirk aptitude tests. I could have the name wrong, but I didn't want to go back and check it again. That shows he can be intelligent. He does have character growth in Season 2, where his reason for being a hero, initially him wanting to follow his dreams, changes to wanting to prove to the people who believe in him that they're right. He has another form of growth as he eventually comes to think like All Might and wanting to protect the people with no ulterior motive. Now, I will say, Izuku has not gotten much growth in the anime outside of this from my perspective, and as such, as a protagonist, does not come off the best, but as a character, and with what we have been given, I do feel like he was done well, so I am going to give him 5 out of 5. Moving on. Katsuki is a very weird case. His last name is debated as being Bakugo and Bakugo with a U, as I've noticed with people. Okay, on to the actual reason he's so weird. Katsuki is what seems to be a typical bully. He is mean to Izuku and looks down on everyone, but singles Izuku out because of how different he is. As Season 1 goes on, it is noticeable that the source of his anger and how he feels towards himself changes from being, I deserve respect and should be shown respect, to being, why wasn't I respected enough to be told or treated like the others? Now, Katsuki is not all too selfless. However, some notable attributes come in when it is stated that, aside from his raw strength, he is intelligent and scores high on tests. As I've watched, he does in a way care about the people, because if he didn't, he wouldn't push himself to be the best he can be. He does seem to grow in self-doubt over time, and I like seeing how Katsuki has developed. 4 out of 5. I understand why his anger is as prevalent as it is, but I feel like something else needs to happen with him to give him that extra point. Next! Toshinori is very interesting, because despite being the symbol of peace and the #1 hero, he is very surprisingly cynical. All Might seems to have forgotten what it meant to be a hero, and he is reminded by Izuku what that is. He does have faith in Izuku, but none in himself, and to an extent, the society they live in. All Might seems to keep his smile and optimism for the public to keep a panic from spreading, which shows some sort of rational side, even if it's not always really there. I feel like his secret and the internal struggle he faces really add layers to his character as well. We can also see how much he truly does care for others despite risking his secret coming out at the end of Season 1 when, spoiler incoming, the League of Villains first makes an official appearance with Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu at the USJ, or Unforeseen Simulation Joint. All Might is forced to be late to the exercise, and when he does show up, he is pissed that fellow heroes were hurt, and more than that, he was pissed that students, kids who had done no wrong, were being targeted for attack as well, showing he truly cares. The only drawback to Toshinori is that he does skew and seem to stifle other characters' development, but that's not necessarily his fault. 4 out of 5, because there's so much potential outside of this, and I haven't really seen much with him being done outside of this, even in the anime. Next! Ochako is a sweet girl who doesn't discriminate and seems to acknowledge the good around her. She is positive and seems to be very supportive. She is selfless to a degree, attempting to give up some of her points from the entrance exam to Izuku, even though it might have meant she wouldn't get in. She wanted to give him a fair chance. Ochako is not always the quickest thinker, but she does act fast and tries her best in order to succeed. Her reasoning for being a hero does genuinely seem selfish, but it's not at the same time. I relate to Ochako and her desire to help her parents, as well as make them proud. She pushes herself to her absolute limits and beats herself up. She looks up to Izuku because he seems to be able to do the impossible, and I like that she looks up to him for this. She also acknowledges that she needs to be more independent, and does a good job of finding a balance between independence and support from her friends. 5 out of 5. Tenya is probably the funniest character in the show without even trying. He's just so easily memeable. However, aside from the jokes with him, he's a pretty solid character. Tenya is very prideful and comes from a family of heroes that give him high standards to reach. He is a leader at heart and tries his best to do what is best for the class, even if he's overtly strict in the process. He tries his best to uphold his own moral code and the standards set for himself. When the Stain arc occurs, we see a difference in Ida. Instead of being poised and respectful, he becomes angry and vengeful, even suffering permanent scars from his actions. And while yes, his views are different in a way, I love seeing Tenya, someone so good and so proper, go through so much emotional and even view-changing development. 4.5 out of 5. I feel like his views could have changed a bit more because what he went through was a very serious matter, but I also understand why they didn't to a certain degree. I think he still has potential to become a 5 out of 5.
It's time to sim.
Shota follows a very interesting teacher archetype of, if you don't do good enough, I'll drop you faster than if you were a boiling pot of water with no handle. Shota is very observant and doesn't bother being around the bush. He's extremely blunt, and if he doesn't think you have a chance, he won't bother with you. However, if he does see potential, he will put in his time and effort. He truly does care for his students and provides support as needed while letting them find their own way, like a parent who's secretly aware of everything. 5 out of 5. Tsuyu is a no-nonsense and very to-the-point character. She's very intelligent, and her quirk allows for a lot of flexibility and change. She is able to turn the tide of a battle on her own. Tsuyu is quick to think and quick to act as it's necessary. Despite her blunt attitude, however, she can be very comforting and very good with dealing with people. I like this because it's a very important trait, especially for a hero. 4.5 out of 5. I would like to see more of her, but she is a great character. Tokoyami is a quiet and slightly carefree student. He's watchful and keeps to himself. He fears his quirk, Dark Shadow, who becomes uncontrollable at night. Tokoyami is very strong and tries his best to be supportive of his classmates. I love Tokoyami because his quirk is such an inner struggle that we've never really seen before. It's not like One for All where the quirk destroys his body. Tokoyami has to worry about other people getting hurt because of his quirk, and that is a terrifying prospect to him. Tokoyami also has a really cool weakness, and I kinda like that the light beats Dark Shadow down into a weaker position, and more than that, it's irony at its finest. Darkness is associated with evil, but Tokoyami is trying to become a hero, and light, which is supposed to be associated with heroes and good, shuts Tokoyami's quirk down. 5 out of 5. Shoto is an amazing character that hits close to home for many. Even his parents have a very interesting dynamic with him. Shoto is someone that many love, and I do understand why. He is faced with so many inner trials, and these inner struggles, like what happened with his mom and what's still occurring with his dad, they just add to his development, and his development, for that matter, is phenomenal, especially in Season 2. He starts off rejecting his fire, even rejects his ice a little bit. He confronts his mom, he accepts his fire later on in the anime, and becomes stronger, while also eventually beginning to try to make amends with people around him. He's very developed, and I feel where he came from. It just makes him an amazing character. I understand many people think he's overrated, but, and this is me trying to be objective here, I do feel that he deserves a 5 out of 5. Denki is a fun-loving and supportive guy who's kind of perverted. He is not the deepest as far as characters go, at least not in the anime. He has a lot of potential, and I personally really enjoy him, but from the standpoint of a watcher, his most memorable traits are extremely memeable and don't give me much to work with, though he does get quite a bit of screen time, which is why he's on the list. 3 out of 5. Next! Mina is like Denki in that she is fun-loving and supportive. She has a really cool quirk and has a good amount of physical strength. She's very comforting and even changes her hero name from being Alien Queen to Pinky because she didn't want people to be afraid of her. I love that she has her dancing, and I love how she uses her quirk to her advantage, comboed with her dance. 3.5 out of 5, as we haven't seen enough of her, but she's still a pretty good character. Jiro doesn't have the things most anime girls do. She's flat, doesn't have big eyes, and her quirk doesn't stand out nearly as much as the others. Her hero outfit is even really normal. Jiro doesn't have confidence in her quirk being useful, and she wants to be a hero, but her parents are musicians. They're supportive of her dream, but sometimes Jiro doesn't feel like she does well enough to be a hero. I like that Jiro has these problems because I feel like it led up to Season 4 very well, and I loved it. Though I would prefer to see more action development from her, she's still a good character, and I love the diversity from her. 4 out of 5. Next! Kirishima comes off as manly this and manly that, and what is best? Behind this front, Kirishima is one of the most amazing characters I think I've seen from this anime. Kirishima is not confident due to his quirk, and believing he can't do what he's always wanted to do. His quirk is hardening, which doesn't seem too useful. However, Kirishima breaks barriers in Season 4, both quirk-wise and as a person. He believed himself to be a coward and hated himself, but when his comrade was in trouble, he stepped in front and shed his fears, even if it meant he would die. He was awesome. Yes, I'm fangirling, but Kirishima got some of the best development I think I've seen in this anime. 5 out of 5. Next! Mirio is awesome. I love Mirio. He is a bit of a jokester, but has worked himself so hard over the years. He is rational, but still feels responsible for all that happened with Eri. He works so much harder, and is even willing to give his life for her, no matter what. In the end, he suffered the greatest loss, and still kept a smile on his face for her, because he wanted her to be okay. He didn't want her to go back to Overhaul. He became a hero to do what he did for Eri. and he didn't whine or regret it. He knew the consequences of his actions and accepted it. How often do you see that from a character? How often do you see them go through such things that Mirio did and then not complain about it? I mean, holy fuck! Like, wow! 5 out of 5. Moving on. Tamaki suffers from self-confidence issues and has an awesome quirk. I mean, who wouldn't want to grow body, like, well, not necessarily body parts, but parts of animals based off of what you eat? I mean, that's just an awesome quirk in itself. That is just, whew, wow. Unlike Mirio, Tamaki is calm and to himself. He's quiet and watchful and doesn't usually believe in himself. I love how he grows in self-confidence, even taking on 3 villains, one of which could have been fatal to him at the same time. And he holds his own for a long time. His confidence and his quirk and just pretty much almost everything with this seemingly edgy boy, it's just, I adore him. I feel him on a spiritual level. 5 out of 5. Eri is a sweet and loving girl who was abused by the villain Overhaul to make a drug. Despite Eri only coming in at season 4, Eri is so emotional despite all that has happened to her and just wants others to be safe, letting Overhaul manipulate her to save others because she doesn't want them to die. When Eri gets rescued, she says she doesn't know how to smile. And when the school festival comes and Eri finally smiles, we see her growing out of the sadness and trauma that she endured for years. I like that they showed this. It made her her own character rather than a plot device to just be used. It was a reminder to Mirio and Izuku of what they were fighting for. Why everything that they did up to this point and everything that they would continue to do would be worth it. A lot of people that I've talked to in general about the anime didn't like Eri because they felt like there could have been more with her. But considering how she was used in season 4 and the way they ended things with her, she deserves a 5 out of 5. She is an amazing character for the short amount of time she has had on screen. And frankly, if you disagree, that's fine. But I don't think that I would change my rating over this. Not with her. It's just, wow. Stain, the hero killer. Stain didn't go about what he did in the best way, but in this society that he's in, his statement had to have reached volumes, which is why I understand that he acted the way he did. He looks at All Might and sees what a hero should be. Someone who becomes a hero to protect not for fame, not for money, not for anyone else, but to protect the weak who need it. Stain is not necessarily a villain or a hero at the same time. I can only really say he's a vigilante, but I feel like that's a bit up to interpretation. Stain doesn't necessarily want chaos or war, though. Stain even saves Izuku's life. He makes people question their morals, but also keeps to his own. I also love that he creates controversy even among villains, as villains take his beliefs and his words and twist them into being what they think is right. It creates a sort of cult among villains and their circles without meaning to. And I think it's definitely one of the darker and more developed themes, even if it might have been unintentional. 5 out of 5. Oh boy. All for One is pretty bland in my opinion. If he isn't doing things to spite All Might, he just kinda sits there in a suit and acts all high and mighty. He's fairly in the back, and I just can't find much to say about him. So, 2 out of 5. Next! Shigaraki is very interesting. He was born with a very interesting quirk, his disintegration, and was taken in by All for One. Shigaraki is very obviously not mentally stable, but he does have a weird growth over time. As Toshinori points out at the start of season 2, as a recap in a way, Shigaraki is childish and doesn't like not getting his way. However, He is a good strategist, and turned from being a childish brat to being cold, calculating. He is definitely different, and Shigaraki's growth and cunning is shown, especially with how he uses the Hasakai as a cover while the League of Villains grows. 4.5 out of 5. I would like to see a bit more of him, but I think 4.5 is a good rating for him for now. This next name I'm going to have trouble saying. Jin Bubaigawara. Bubaigawara. That's a weird name. And it belongs to Twice. Why? I don't know, but I'm just gonna accept it. Jin is a very deep character. He can make clones of not just himself, but other people. Twice's quirk and his misuse of it led to a mental snap. He's an odd person, but he isn't a bad character. His character is rather unique. He does have a capacity to care for others, even though he is a criminal. He questions everything he does, and he is rather doubtful of himself despite accomplishing nice feats in the past. It is not often that a character like Twice is written well, especially when it comes to mental illness. However, I feel like he was done justice. 5 out of 5. And our last character. Kai does not like quirks. Kai sees quirks as a disease and wishes to eradicate them. He does not show care for much outside of his goal, and even puts his adoptive father in a coma to try to show him the truth when he wakes up. He is very powerful and tactical. He knows how to manipulate and get what he wants. I'll be honest, I despise Kai. Not as a villain, not for quality, not because of what he does to Eri. But good characters tend to, in most cases, draw intense emotion from us. Kai is a good villain, and is very interesting. Kai deserves a 4 out of 5. I'll admit, I'm being a small bit petty about this rating. I don't care! You messed with a child! You don't fucking mess with a child! I will take off points for that. No! Yeah! Moving on. Now to calculate the averages. 5 plus 4, plus 4, plus 5, plus 4.5, plus 5, plus 4.5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 3, plus 3.5, plus 4, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 2, plus 4.5, plus 5, plus 4 equals 93, divided by the amount of numbers, which I believe was 21, 4.4 out of 5 for the character section. Now, on to personal investment. I felt very invested in Season 1. I loved Season 1. And I have to be honest, I'm gonna give Season 1 a 5.5 for execution. Season 2 was a struggle. I couldn't do it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best either. I don't know why I struggled so much. I didn't feel the struggle as much with the Stain arc, but I definitely felt it with the tournament arc. And the tournament arc was kind of wasted, because even though the premise for it was amazing, these characters show off so much potential and so much capability in the tournament arc, and then almost never do it again. Due to the execution of the other seasons and the lack of proper power scaling, Season 2 gets a 2.5 out of 5. Season 3 was awesome, and I loved it. I didn't love it as much as I did Season 1, but I felt it brought up some good plot points. I felt like there was some good character development there, and I feel like given all that had happened throughout Seasons 1 and 2, Season 3 definitely did a good job. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. And now, Season 4. Season 4 was my absolute favorite. Season 4 touched on so many dark themes that My Hero Academia as a whole was very slowly reaching. I loved the character developments for Jiro and Kirishima. I loved seeing the Hasakai and Eri, and I loved seeing that Shigaraki was no longer a bratty child. Because Shigaraki, I saw the potential in him in Season 1, and seeing him grow was like a fucking miracle to me, because I didn't think he would. I thought they were gonna fuck it up, and they didn't, and I'm so happy they didn't, because Shigaraki is one of my favorite villains of all time. Overall, Season 4 was an amazing season, in my opinion, and I think it deserves a 5 out of 5. So, For the personal investment rating, we have 5 plus 2.5 plus 4 plus 5 equals 16.5 divided by 4, which equals 4.1 out of 5. Now for the anime total, which is going to be really weird. 4.8 plus 4.4 plus 4.1 equals 13.3 out of 10. Now, as I mentioned in my Death Note video, personal investment really does make the score, which means that for you, the anime might be over a rating of 10 because your personal investment was that much and you love the characters and you love the story. So that's why it is more than 10. However, without the personal investment, because I did try to look at the characters objectively rather than being biased, the taken away of the personal investment score means that overall it would be 9.2 out of 10. So keep in mind, just because my rating is so high and so weird, it doesn't mean that it'll be that way for you, because you might not like these kinds of anime, and if you don't, that's fine. You know, a lot of people don't like Death Note because it doesn't have the action My Hero has. A lot of people don't like My Hero because of various reasons that I won't get into in this video, because this video is already too long. But thank you for watching, and I do have a slight announcement. I am planning on releasing a couple of nerdcore songs soon, hopefully. So please be on the lookout for that. I don't know what my next anime review is going to be, but I am going to start doing character analysis videos soon. So if you are interested in character analysis or nerdcore music videos, please, keep a lookout for that. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. If you want to see more anime reviews, please make sure to give this video a like. Go check out my last video, my anime review for Death Note, and I will see you next time, Larvestites. Goodbye!